There are two sides to every story. You know, I disagree with a lot of people in this world. I don't see their side. Or I do see their side. Some people say, you just don't see it the way I see it. No, I don't. I see it differently than you see it. I've been attending church 42 years. 42 years. I have learned something. Even in church, you got to be careful when you start taking sides. Now, render therefore unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. So even everything we deal with in life, there's going to be a choice to be made. And when you make that choice, you've got to decide between man and God. I want you to take the first penny, one penny, look at that side of it and describe it. Look at it. Look at the front of it. I want you to notice something. When you're looking at the front of the penny, that's the only side you can see. And the first thing that sticks out is there's a man on there. Okay. But is that all that's there? But it's all you're going to notice if you don't pay attention. So even if you only see one side of an argument or a problem, the biggest thing that sticks out is what you're going to dwell on. Does the little stuff matter? Yes. Does that date on that penny matter? You know, some pennies are rare and worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, all because of the date. And then there's a little letter on there. Tells you where it's made. And some of those are so rare, there's only 3 or 4 of them in existence. You can retire and live happily ever after because you own one penny. Now, flip it over. Describe the penny again by looking at the backside. It is completely different. There's a building on it. There's words on it. It actually says 1 cent, printed out 1 cent in words. Can you see both sides at the same time? Impossible. But there is 2 sides. This is why we have problems in the church and outside the church. It's hard to see both sides at the same time. Because when we look, we see what we see. When we think we see what we see. And we're all just a little bit prejudiced. When we flip heads or tails in a game, I always call heads. Why? I like calling heads. So I'm sort of prejudiced. I have my own thoughts, how things should be, own thoughts about what I see, own thoughts about what I hear and how I interpret them. Guess what? My thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. I can't do that in God's work. I'm not allowed because it's not what I think, it's what my Heavenly Father thinks. Now let's go on. When there's an argument in the church world or anywhere else, there's a dispute with anybody. We see a penny. Well, that's a penny. I've seen the front side and the back side. But then there's minor details we don't pay attention to. Those details are important. On my right-hand side, there's 7 pennies. They're all 1982s. Every one of them's different. Every one of them's got something a little different about it. What appears to be the same old problem over and over and over, the same old situation is not. They're all different. You cannot make a decision about a problem with Aunt Nancy and my nephew back there the same way I do with Jane and Thomas. Even though there's still 2 people, male and a female, 2 people, male and a female. Oh, it's the same problem. No, no, no. God handles you as an individual. And as a Christian, I got to handle each group as an individual. It's not cut and dried. If it's cut and dried, they don't need me. Now, why'd I say that? And then on my left-hand side, the value of that penny is determined by how good of a shape it is, any nicks, any blemishes. how many times it's been handled. If it's in the best of shape, it's worth more money if you're a collector. Why did I say all this? Let's get to the lesson now. There's a story in the Bible. There were two sides of this story. And it was a pretty serious story. A father dealing with his two sons. The sons loved each other. They had no problem until things got a decision was made by one brother that affected the other. And I don't think the one brother took the other brother in consideration. I don't think the one brother even worried about what the other brother thought. And I'm going to tell you something. Even if you're doing the right thing, you're following God, and you're doing the best you can, everything you do affects somebody else. If I started driving a truck right now, and I was gone from home most of the time, would it affect anybody? Yep, it'd make us all happy. Well, I wouldn't be around. Sue's heat, her pilot light on her propane heater stove went out last night, 2 nights ago. Mark, can you come fix it? Yeah, I can. I've burnt eyebrows a couple of times fixing it, but I can do it. Seriously, I have. But that would affect her. Would it affect Barbara? Yeah, she'd be real, real happy, Mark. Probably. But she could brought something in the living room out of the kitchen. She couldn't get the lid off the jar. I did. Every little decision I make affects somebody else. And sometimes it's in small ways you think don't matter. It matters. Luke 15, 11, and 12. And he said, a certain man had 2 sons. And in the 12th verse, and the younger of them, you know it's always the youngest one that causes the problem, Chris? You know why I think the younger one usually is the one who makes decisions erratically faster? Because he's younger. When we're young, we make a lot of bad decisions. I did. I don't know, I put a few cars in the ditch. Bad decisions. Yep, and you know what? I don't do that much anymore. If I'm a better driver, I just make better decisions. Much better decisions. And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of good that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. The father didn't question him. The father didn't question the decisions of his son, even his youngest son. Now, I'm real bad about saying this to my son, Kevin. Are you sure? Are you sure? He told me one day, Dad, if I want your opinion, I'll ask you for it. You cannot guide people in making their decisions in life. You cannot tell them what to do. You think you can because you're a dad, you're a pastor, you're a teacher, you're a mom, you're a teacher. People are going to do what people are going to do. They're either going to do it, and you're going to still have some communication with them, or they're going to do it, and they'll cut off all communication with you. Think about if God done us that way. Whew. What if God cut off his communication with you every time you didn't listen to him? What if he told you, go about your own way, buddy, you're on your own now? Oh, boy, it'd be a cold, lonely world out there. Because you know what I do when I get in big enough mess? I turn back to my Father. And he divided unto them his living. He gave him everything he had coming to him. He didn't hold back a little bit because his son left home. He just said, well, I'll let you go, but you ain't going to get all of it, or I'm not going to give you anything. He gave him all he had that was in his son's name. Now, God asked me something there. Mark, what did you give your son when he left? I didn't give him monetary value. I don't think it's all about the money. What are you going to give your child when they walk out of your life? What are you going to give somebody you're close to the day they walk away? What did they get from you that you gladly gave them that if they waste it, you're not going to judge them? I was down here talking to Sister Rhonda. I guess it was Wednesday night. And I made a statement. I said, they say you don't take anything with you when you leave this world, but you do leave something behind that stays yours forever. You keep 2 things forever, your casket and your grave plot. It stays in your name for as long as it's going to exist. Isn't that sort of sad? That's all we leave on this earth. Now, if that's all you're leaving on this earth, you done God no good while you lived. If all they can say about you is where you're buried and describe the casket you're in, you wasted your whole life. If that is all they know about you, if my great-great-grandson walks by my cemetery and sees my burial plot one day, and all they can say is, that was your grandpa, and that is it. That means I've done no good for God on this earth. I left nothing behind worthwhile. The youngest son left for a far country and wasted all he had. I put that in my words. That's about like most young sons, isn't it? That's like a lot of sons too. That's like a lot of fathers still. That's like some moms. No matter how good they got it, they're more worried about themselves than they are anybody else. I'm already judging this young son. Are you? I see the one side of the penny. You've got a bright, shiny penny. You can't wait to spend it. How many of you do that? You use up all you got, and you save nothing for others. And all you got is for you, and none of it's for others. God don't bless you. God don't give you wisdom. God don't guide you just for your path. Because there's somebody watching you or following you, and if you're going down the wrong path, guess who else is going down the wrong path? I'm proud of my grandkids. I think their parents are doing great jobs. After they get my influence, if they can still keep them straight, they're doing real good. Because I got some rules for my grandkids. When you're at my house, you don't go tell your mom and daddy what went on at my house. We don't discuss that. They ask you what we done today. Here's your words. We just played. You don't say anything else. Now, hard times hit him and he had nothing. You can go from having half your father's inheritance. His father was well off. Do y'all realize that? His father had servants that worked the field. But there's another one who worked that field too that wasn't his servant. And I think we leave that one out of the story way too much. That's the other side of the coin. There was an older brother. And we're going to discuss him. He found a place, a man there, and he said, I'm starving. You got any food? The guy wouldn't give him food. He said, I'll hire you to feed my pigs, my swine. So in the 15th verse, he fed the swine to be allowed to have a place to stay. You ever been around pigs? There used to be what was that pig farm down the creek? What was it? Sonny Barlow. You could drive down through there with your windows open. If the wind was blowing from the farm towards you, nobody had to tell you there's a pig farm there. It stunk. Now, you can get a cow to come to you. You can direct a cow. A cow will follow you. A pig will do what a pig does. A pig don't listen. Feeding the pigs is not an easy job. Nasty, smelly. And this young son had nothing to his name. Nothing. So if he got the pig slop and the pig mess on him, he lived in it every minute. He didn't wash off. He didn't change clothes. He had no more clothes put on. You know, when you get out there in this world away from God, away from your family, that's going to hit you soon. You're so far down, man, if I can just get through the day and something to eat, I'm okay. No matter how nasty and smelly and hard this is. He ate what the swine ate, and no one cared. What do pigs eat? Everything. It don't matter if it's rotten or not. Now, guess what? I'm going to get into the story. If you put rotten stuff in, you're rotten. But I will say this. The world's rotten. You get out in the world, you're going to stink of the world, and especially if you eat of the world. He started thinking, You may think nobody comes to reality. There is a reality check when you left a good place and go to a bad space. I'm not going to name the man's name. I know one man in this church that's miserable today. He's not eating with swine. He's probably eating better than I am. He's not wearing filthy, nasty clothes. He probably wears nicer clothes than I do. He's not even driving a bad vehicle and barely getting around. He probably drives a better vehicle than me. But you know what he is? He's miserable. Now, this is a physical story I'm telling here. This young man is out in the physical world, living physically with pigs, eating pig food. And he stops and thinks, I would rather be struggling physically than spiritually. I would rather eat pig food and eat from the manna from God's table spiritually. Because when you reverse that, it all looks good. That one side of the coin looks bright and shiny, looks like they're having the time of their life, looks like they're living it up. But you know what they really are? They're miserable. He started thinking, my father's servants eat better than I do. If you've got a family that loves you and cares about you, no, they don't buy your stuff at JCPenney's. They buy it at the thrift store. You're still better off. Now, I got two families. Well, I actually got more than two. I got my blood relatives. I got a good family. I know this. If I made a call to my sons, my mom, brothers, and everybody and said, if I don't have $10,000 by the end of the day, I'm going to die, I'd have $10,000. I have no doubt I'd have $10,000. Then I go to my second family. I think I may call the church pastor and I said, please tell about church if I don't have $10,000 by the day I'm dying. I still believe I'd have $10,000. I really believe that. Thank y'all. If y'all are fooling me, keep fooling me, because I really believe it in my heart. If I needed $10,000, I'd die tonight. I'd have no doubt by 11:59 that one more dollar, make it over $9,999 would come in. Now, you may be the last one, could only give me $1, but you'd give me your last dollar. And then I have my third family. I'm a child of God. And he said he owned the cattle on 1,000 hills. I have no doubt if I needed $10,000, I'm going to die tonight. If it was God's will, it would show up. And you know, some people don't even have one family. This young man, this young son, was down to no families. Unless you want to call the pigs his family. And he didn't share it with him. He had to take it from him. Now, I'll go home and say I'm sorry. 18th verse of Luke, of 15th chapter. And say I'm sorry. Do you think saying I'm sorry was necessary? I'm going to go farther. Do you think saying I'm sorry was required by the Father? Do you think he made his son beg to come back? Did he have to grovel and crawl to his dad's house? As a father, I have made this statement. And you may not believe it. Kids may not even believe it. I don't believe it, I know it. I don't believe it, I know it. No matter how bad shape you get in, no matter the circumstances, my door's open. My bed's open. My refrigerator's open. I've had to crawl to God like that a few times. God, I'm embarrassed to even come back. He said, you don't got to apologize. Just come home. Come see me again. I told you anytime you needed me, I'm here. Verse 19, just let me work and have enough to eat. He didn't come back and say, restore me to my glory. Did the son have glory? Yes. The son was in high prestige in his house. You are. A father loves his son like the Father loves me as a son. We give things to our sons because we want them to have more than us. So how much does God really want me to have? He wants me to have everything. When his father saw him, verse 20, and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. Well, that's backwards, Mark. That's backwards. The father done nothing wrong. Why did he have compassion? Why did he run? Why did he grab him by the neck? And why in the world did he kiss him? If you don't feel that way about every sinner that comes through that door, shame on us. If you don't care that same way about that person comes through that door who's been here 100 times, this is 101, shame on us. Because I will never kick one of my kids out and say, you can't come back. I will never close the door in their face. I will never tell them, let me hug you. Please come back in. Sit down. And don't just sit in your seat, sit in my seat. And then the son said, I'm sorry. I am so unworthy to be your son. I've been on that end too. I have crawled from the back of that church to the front. I've crawled. You may have seen me, you may didn't. Did I have to crawl? I could have walked. You know why I crawled for? I felt the need for me to crawl. God did not require me to crawl. God don't make you crawl back. Now, have you ever crawled back? Did the son say it's okay? Father said nothing. Father didn't even respond to, I'm sorry. Father didn't even say, well, I told you so, or I'm glad you feel bad about it. He just smiled. That's all he done. That's what 23rd said. But the father returned to the son to the best of everything. In 23, the father gave him the best food. That's not what he gave his son. The food was not that important. The roof over his head wasn't that important. That word, S-M-I-L-E-D, was what was important. He smiled. I do things that are right sometimes because they're right. I'm supposed to. I let little old ladies sit down if there's only one seat. I let somebody who's crippled go in front of me in the line at Walmart. I'll let somebody cut in front of me because they're fixing to cause a wreck. But you know, when the father smiled at him, he said everything the son needed to know. I love you. My attitude towards you is right because my attitude never changed. I loved you the same when you was here to start with. I loved you the same when you left. And I'll love you the same when you come back. I have my son again. You know you're a child of God. When you walk through that door, God knows it's you. God knows why you're here. And God sees a purpose for you being here. He don't say, what are you doing? What's your motive? He knows. Let's go on. It's going to be my shortest lesson I've ever taught. I might actually get done on time. 18 frames, all I got. All right, here's your problem. That was one side of the coin. Other side of the coin's always going to pop up. In spiritual work, there's always two sides to every coin. If somebody's happy, somebody's mad, even inside this church. If I said we put new carpet in here today and I want pink, everybody's mad. But if I said I want brown, some of you are mad, some of you are happy. If I came to you individually and asked you and got what you wanted, you're 100% happy, right? So guess what? As long as I get my way, I'm happy. I would like sometimes to let somebody else make the decisions because maybe they deserve it more. You really know who deserves to pick out the carpet? The ones who put the most money in the church. You don't agree? Guess who picks out the carpet in my house? Well, I put the most money in, but my boss. Wait a minute, I'm at a point here. Even though I put the most in, I don't get my way. I don't care if you do put the most in this church and you work 24/7 for this church. You still supposed to listen to your boss about every decision, about everything you think about that involves somebody else. You should consider what God wants, not what you think. I like it when I get my way. I won't lie to you. I go look at the Christmas presents before they're open. I want to see if I got one. And I count who's got how many. And I hope I got the most. The oldest son was working in the field. Now, it's always the oldest son that rocks the boat and causes the trouble. I'm just kidding. No offense, Thomas. But there's always a conflict between the oldest and the youngest in the family. If there's 5 kids, the oldest and youngest have a conflict. just the way it is. Are you treated different? Absolutely. Does God treat us differently? Absolutely. Work in the field, and he hears music and laughter. I don't know if you've ever done much gardening. After you've been out there 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 hours, and there's 6 people sitting on the porch and they're playing music and laughing, having a good time, and you're out there hoeing those weeds out, you start to thinking, and your mind starts saying, guess who eats his food? All of them. Guess who's working his food, this garden? None of them. Guess who deserves this food? Only me. Guess who thinks they're getting this food? All of them. Is that true love? Absolutely not. Greater love hath no man that laid down his life for his brother. Greater love has no man that he'd spend his time to benefit somebody else. It's not just money or your life, it's your time. What have you done this week that benefits somebody besides you? Was it all about you? No, I included everybody else in my plans. Exactly, your plans. Did you include yourself in somebody else's plans? Did you take time out of your life for them? Now, if they want to share in my life, that's great. I'll share with them. But did you go out of your way and take away from yourself? He asked the servants in verse 26, what's going on? You know, Christians are busybodies. We like to gossip. I can prove it. I guarantee you, if I tell 3 people here today, me and Barbara's getting a divorce, please keep it quiet. Every one of you know it by next week. Every one of you. And every one of you be looking at me funny, patting Barbara on the back, congratulations. So I guarantee it's going to get around to both of us. Because people will not keep their mouth shut. We like to talk without the facts. We like to talk because we think we know the facts. And what should have every one of you done? First, you should have prayed to God for guidance and talking to me about it. And then you should ask Barbara why I'm leaving for her. But you should do that in private. Your brother has come, said the servant, and thy father had killed a calf because in celebrating. He not only celebrated, he's having a party. No punishment. Nothing negative for the man who took half his life belongings for the father and went out and blowed it. Now, if I had $10,000 in my bank account and Kevin Cunningham blowed 5,000 of it, there's going to be a war. Oh, you wouldn't? I'm going to confess right now. I know every penny Barbara spends. Because most of it's at Walmart. And if you've got a Walmart account and you use your debit card, every item shows up on there. Ding, 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 ding. It's because I like to keep my money real close. I'm not in love with money. I'm in love with paying my bills. So, I can be getting angry over money. The father thought nothing at all about money. But the brother did. What was the brother's problem? He was angry, would not go in. I'll stay out here and work. I'll show them. You ever withdraw from a group so you can prove your point? I'll show them they won't make it without me. They'll make it. If I lay this down, I fold my glasses, and I walk out that door, this church is going on. Barbara's going on. You're going on. My grandkids will survive. You know why? That's how God created man, to carry on. The young brother was wrong. The father was right so far. I actually think the father made a mistake in the story. You think the older brother had a right to know what was going on? Did he tell his son? Now, I don't know why he didn't tell his son. The party done started. Did the father know that the older son was still in the garden or the fields working? You think the older brother felt bad because his brother came home, or because he was excluded from the party? He left me out. That's another thing I want to say right here. I know we leave people out of groups in here, and that's okay. I don't like to sing. Well, I like to sing in the shower and in my car, and I sound good both places. Everywhere else, I don't sound too good. Must be the acoustics in here or something. That's all I can figure. So guess what? I don't want included in that. I actually pray, please God, don't include me in that. Leave me out. But you know, if all the men in this church went fishing, and you didn't say, hey, Mark, you want to go fishing? You would hurt my feelings. Even if it was unintentional. In God's work, the Bible says, come unto me. The Bible and God's works for everybody that wants it. So if you know I like to fish and you don't ask me, well, Mark, we don't like you. So what? Did God always like you? God don't like me a lot of days. He's never excluded me from anything that he had to give me. Always offered it. Now, it's times if I say, no, I don't want to go, no, I don't want to go, he quits offering. If I asked him, well, I ain't going to talk about that. All right. He was angry, would not go in. His father came out to get him. I wonder how the father found out. How did the father find out what was going on? You think a servant sold him? It don't tell us. I think it finally clicked with the father. I should have told my son. He answered all these years. This is the father hearing it from his son. He answered. I spelled these wrong. Ooh, that's terrible. All these years I have worked hard, never complained, and yet I never was praised or given a party. There's the problem. He was jealous. It had nothing to do with what the son done. Because I've never had a party, period. Ever. You know, there's some people in this church that work their tails off. Yeah, we know who they are. But they never get much praise from us. You know why? They don't do the glamorous stuff. They do the dirty work, Melvin Mayfield. Yeah, I know who mows this churchyard because I stick my nose out. A lot of times I'm mowing mine when they're mowing this one. I don't know why. If I mowed on Friday, this one's getting mowed on a Friday. If I do it on Saturday, this one's getting mowed on a Saturday. Have I ever mowed this churchyard? Yeah, I have. And there's a blessing to mowing this churchyard. There it is. Well, Mark, I'm not into that kind of stuff. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you have a yard at your house? It gets mowed, correct? So you know how. But Mark, you don't sing. Well, if I was real bad at mowing a yard, I wouldn't mow this churchyard either. It needs to be done correctly. So I don't sing. I've never had a party. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Well, let's go way back in the Bible. The youngest son, you think he got half of what his father was going to give away? Who got the biggest part of the inheritance from the father? The oldest son. Why did the oldest son? I don't know biblically why they do that. I do know this. If you got a good father, the oldest son gets the most benefits. Not just financially, but spiritually, economically. Why? I have more time. You'll have more time to spend on your oldest child than you do any other child you got. Tell me I'm wrong. You will. Because two things here. You're going to pass away. Your oldest child will spend more of their living life with you than the younger ones will. Second of all, I hate to tell you this, your oldest child will always have a special place in their life. They made you a father. They gave you that first joy of being a father. And you've done things differently. I'll go back, for example. Well, Kayla was my first child, so I'll use first child as an example. And she learned how to walk. She came up to those steps out there. I was right behind her doing this. I wasn't going to let her fall. And Kevin went up the steps. Hey, he's tough. He'll get it. He'll fall. He'll be all right. You treat the first one different. Now, let's go on. We should make merry and be glad for that this thy brother was dead. We should. And is again alive. And was lost and is found. And I'd say that's older brother probably went, okay, so what? He also left. How do we go from being brothers to enemies? When we don't get together, we don't talk, we don't discuss, and all we do is gossip. When all we do is one side of the coin, we cause problems. Walk them all in my shoes. Oh, Mark, I don't want to wear your shoes. Not my shoes. You got to wear your brother's shoes to understand your brother. You got to know where he's coming from. You got to know why he thinks and why he feels and why he does. You can't just say it's wrong. Stealing's wrong. I'll steal from you if my kids are hungry. I'll ask you for it, and see, if you don't give it to me, turn your head, I'm going to steal it. And you will too. Two sides to every story. The prodigal son. I'm going to read all that. Here's where the two sides was. That's sort of small, sorry. The father said, my son, my son, my son has returned home. And the brother, the oldest brother, said, my brother has returned home? He said, yes, your son has returned home. Two different relationships. The father seen his child and came home. The brother did not see a child coming home. He seen his brother, and he called, but he didn't call him brother. He done lost that relationship, brother to brother. The closest people to in your life should be your brothers and sisters. Should be. You should care more about your brothers and your sisters than you do a stranger. Well, Mark. I didn't say you shouldn't love strangers. But your brothers and sisters, you should understand them more and be closer to them and have more compassion for them than anybody in your life. I got news for you, Kayla and Kevin. When I die and Mom dies, your family bloodline is y'all. Y'all have each other left. I'm gone. So if you don't got a relationship with your brother, your family goes away. Now you got a family and you got kids. I got it. It's not the same as your brothers and sisters. In this church, don't let the relationship between brothers and sisters die. Melvin, Randy, Roe, Chris, Tommy, thank y'all for the relationship growing up. Don't say that's a bad thing. Y'all made me the man I am. I learned something from each of you. How to be a man, how to treat people, how to serve God, how to carry myself as a Christian. Because I was around you. If I left anybody out, sorry. I will. But I've known a lot of you since I've been 11-year-old. You're my brother. You're not my earthly brother, but you're closer than my earthly brother. But if you can turn your back on your earthly brother, you can turn your back on a spiritual brother too. And this oldest brother turned his back on his brother. He seen him as his father's son instead of seeing him as his brother. He was mad for the wrong reason. He has much reason to be happy as his dad did, but he couldn't let that reason to be happy because he's seen the wrong side of the coin. One side would have made him happy. He's seen the wrong side. Now, I missed one thing. I want to go back to it, Al. I am going to go back to it. I think I missed it. I mean, I got that in here. Okay, I want you to do something with that penny. Hold it like this. Stare at it. I can't see either side. I can't. Can you? So there's a decision to be made. And there's two sides of a story. Before you make any decision, your mind should be just like that. I have no thoughts about this until I know the facts. When I turn the head side around, I know what's on the head side now, and I can see it plain as day. When I turn the tail side around, I can see on the tail side on it what's plain as day. But here's our problem. We have preconceived notions about everybody that's telling their side. Do we not? You got two employees, and one's been a hard worker the whole time, and one's been lazy as all get up the other one, and one day something don't get done, your first thought is, tell that lazy employee to get in here. Something didn't get done. It got to be their fault. Well, it may not have been their fault that day, but you don't know that. Now, almost done. Oh, there it is. Well, see, I just paid attention and went on like most of. There is two sides to every story. But quit being prejudiced. See this young man just walked again? I don't like you. Oh, say, wait a minute. I'm being prejudgmental. So please, I'm sitting down. I'm kidding. I know him, and he knows I'm all cool with that. But you know what? You got more hair than me. I'm mad at you. You know, you know something? I also judge people like that. If you're not like me, you must be wrong. If you look different, you talk different, you're wrong. Be like me or you're wrong. Almost done. Okay. The story of Jesus, I didn't get finished with this, boy. The story of Jesus when the Pharisees and them brought him the coin of picture of Caesar on it. And they asked Jesus this real quick question. Brought him a coin. Should the Israelites or Jewish people pay taxes to the Romans? The Israelites were mad about it already. And they handed him the coin and put him on the spot. He's got that coin in his hand. He said, he called that, what was their money? Denarius? Go back. They gave him the coin. He said, whose picture's on the coin? Whose image? The Bible called it, whose image is on that coin? And they told him, the religious rulers, that's Caesar. He said, because the image on this item is of Caesar. You give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and God what belongs to God. Hold a mirror up in front of your face. Pretend. Whose picture? Who are you in the image of? Who are you? You're the object. Who are you in the image of? You're in the image of God. You was made in God's likeness. God's picture is all over you. So who are you supposed to give yourself to? This world or to God? Who owns you? Who owned that coin? The coin in biblical time, the Romans, it was Caesar's. God owns you. You're in the image of God. You're supposed to be giving yourself to God. It is not a choice. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When people start treating you like toast, you better start worrying. Do what? You got to make a decision. When people start buttering you up, they're trying to get you to make a decision for them. They are. I get it a lot. They'll tell you how great you are and how smart you are and how wise you are and how much trust they got in what you can do. Oh, I need you to solve something for me. Me and Jeremy's having a problem. I think he cheats at fantasy football. And I know you're wise and been doing this a long time, so let's solve this. Well, I done buttered you up. You like me now. Now let's finish this. Don't get yourself between a rock and the hard place in God's Word. Pray to God. Look at everything. And you do have to make a decision. You're not going to get out without making a decision. You better turn back to God's Word and pray about it. Don't be buttered up and make everybody think that you're something to start making decisions. All right, we're done with that. And then this is what that was. You are made in God's image. I am created in His image. Because men bear the image of God, they owe their total alliance to Him. Psalms 2nd chapter. You are made in God's image. Now, everybody says, what does God look like? He's good looking like me. You can't argue that statement because God looks like me. And God can't be ugly. Can He? He must be if He looks like... Not nice. I heard that. Okay, so God is my Father, and I look like my Father. And that's it. Who am I? I'm not just a child of God. I look like God. I have the feelings of God. I have the abilities of God. Wait a minute. He said I could move mountains if I just believed, if I pray. So I have the abilities of God. So I'm a lot like Him. All right, so what's the two sides of every coin? It's choices you got to make. And you should go into any decision you made like I know nothing and get the real facts. It don't matter whose feelings you hurt, who's right or wrong. Do not ever let man sway you in doing something that's ungodly or making a decision that's ungodly for yourself or somebody else without knowing all the facts. Because when you do, You're going to hurt your walk with God, their walk with God, and you're going to hurt your Father God. Thank you.